Christina Giudici is an agricultural scientist with a passion for soil health and regenerative agricultural systems. She has a 30-year career in environmental permitting and management for renewable energy developers and operators, working in Australia and internationally on hydro, wind, solar, wave energy and battery storage projects. She complements her experience in large-scale developments with a love of local and grassroots work, starting a business 15 years ago called FIMBY, Food in My Backyard, which provides advice and hands-on help for people wanting to grow their own food. This commitment to local solutions and joining the dots is what led her to conversations with Bodhi Kavanagh from Dovetail Timbers, and the idea of the new Black Biochar was born.
As you eat your lunch, I invite you to imagine the world from the point of view of an earthworm. So it's dark, and you're moving through a sandy soil. So there's like big billiard balls of silica on either side of you as you push your way through the soil. And it's just been raining, and the water is moving down through the soil profile, kind of sliding around these big silica balls, going down through the profile into the creeks and eventually into the ocean. And then suddenly you push into a patch where it's even darker and it's soft, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. There's little nooks and crannies everywhere, and they're full of charged ions, nutrients and delicious bacteria and fungal mycelium and pockets of air and pockets of water. And it's just a seething foundry of exchange and creation and decomposition. And of course, that's the area that you would like to hang out. And the secret ingredient in that sort of sexy soil zone is biochar. And we're making it from waste. About 30 years ago, freshly graduated from Ag Science at UTAS, I was working here in Launceston as a soil education officer, and I'd never heard of biochar. The program I was funded through was a national soil conservation program. That was a real focus even back then. But we didn't use terms like landscape function, restoration, or even circular economy. Those weren't buzz terms back then. And then around 20 years ago, I left my job at Hydro Tasmania. I was in the environment team there, and followed my nose to do other things. And in amongst consulting gigs, I started this small business that Jen mentioned, FIMBY, Food in My Backyard. And then around 10 years ago was when I first heard about biochar, and it was in the sort of food growing permaculture circles setting. And so I started making biochar myself in a pit kiln, so similar to Frank's above ground cone kilns, but literally a hole in the ground, very cheap technology, great for using garden prunings and garden waste. And I was using that myself and using it with my FIMBY clients. And about 6 years ago, I was chatting with Bodhi Kavanagh, who's pictured here, who has a sawmill. He was making garden beds that we often used with our clients. And Bodhi mentioned that he was going to create a sawdust furnace to create heat and steam for reconditioning timber in his sawmill business. And I just wondered out loud whether he could make biochar at the same time rather than burning all of his residues to ash. And look what he's done now. He's built a continuous flow pyrolysis rig that uses sawdust to get the temperature up. It's a completely closed loop system. All of the combustion gases are circulated back through the furnace. There's no smoke. It can tick over and churn out biochar currently at about 2 cubic metres a day. It uses hardwood sawdust residue as the feedstock from his sawmill, which is right there, and some neighbouring sawmills. With no startup capital other than a small amount that we crowdfunded for back in 2017, it's a fine example of the noble art of junk engineering. It's made from industrial bits of kit that Bodhi's secured over the years, but it's held together with a very sophisticated understanding of combustion technology. And it's got a fantastic PLC that monitors temperature, oxygen levels, retention times, and can be tweaked. So about 2 years ago, with this rig in commissioning, we made our first biochar and the new Black was born. Our first customers for biochar were home gardeners through my Fimby connections and market gardeners. This is Phil and Eva from Gardeners Bay Farm in the south, and Phil is something of a soil wizard. He has a reputation for doing amazing ferments and brewing up indigenous microbes. And Phil and other regenerative farmers were keen to get their hands on biochar, particularly to inoculate with microbial populations, to tweak the soil microbiology to achieve particular outcomes in soil health and plant growth. Another area where we've found biochar curious people is in building and architecture circles. So with Ryan Stratting from Core Collective Architects in the south, we've been toying with ideas of combining clinker, which is an expanded clay bead, those little brown beads there, with biochar in rooftop gardens, where we can combine structure and nutrient holding capacity together to create an environment that can really foster those systems. There's been global interest and experimentation in using biochar in building materials for improving performance in concrete, for displacing other less sustainable materials, and creating materials that can absorb airborne pollutants, can regulate temperature and moisture and so on. So early next year we're teaming up with the School of Engineering at UTAS to create some student projects to investigate some of these opportunities. But this is where I'm getting really excited at the moment. This handsome trio in the photo, two of whom are here today, Luke and David, are doing benchtop trials using our biochar to see if we can extract aqueous ammonia, so we can take nutrients out of solution, not by filtering particles, but by adsorption. And it works. We got some results back yesterday that are extremely promising. Theoretically, biochar can absorb PFAS, heavy metals. It can be used for in situ remediation of hydrocarbon-contaminated soils, all through its superpower, which is porosity and charge at the microscopic level. So there are thousands and thousands of research papers about this, but the beauty of this collaboration is we're actually getting the crappy stuff and putting it together with our biochar, and then we can measure and analyse before and after and see whether things work. And if they do, then we can scale up the trials and we can start to really solve some problems. So just imagine that. There's a locally made product from waste with homegrown ingenuity in the hands of smart people with the right connections that can solve some intractable problems. Watch this space. So it's a pretty exciting place for us at the New Black to be at the moment, and we have a tendency to try to want to be all things to all people, as many startups would be finding themselves. In the BREP program, our wonderful co-participants here were immediately onto that. They got excited about biochar, and then they started asking the questions like, yes, but what are you actually doing? And more importantly, why? What are you in it for? And so this program has been a fantastic opportunity to clarify our vision, to integrate Sam, who we invited into the team early this year, to align ourselves and to chart a path forward into genuine scale-up and commercial production. But this is where we are now. We're shoveling the chips onto a conveyor to feed the rig. We have planned and clearly envisaged efficiency gains when time and money allow. Having this team with us is like a cheer squad. Keep shoveling, don't stop shoveling. We have this amazing rig that works. It produces a high quality, high carbon charcoal. We have a team that have the engineering, science, commercial and project experience to do what we need to do. And we have a bucket load of commitment. We want to make an impact. So our current focus is to make efficiency gains in production, so get 3 times the output for the same effort, and to complete the process of certification for carbon dioxide reduction certificates so we can feed some of the hungry corporates in Tasmania who want credible local carbon reduction certificates. We're planning to do this through continued organic growth. Sell some biochar, make an improvement, make some more biochar. But that organic growth is pretty slow and we're impatient and we want to make impact. So we are planning to be seeking funding so that we can make a step change in our resource utilisation and efficiency. This will help the hungry corporates get what they want. It will help solve some intractable pollution problems. It can continue to serve growers and it'll keep the worms happy. Thanks.